Hi everyone, welcome to Belle's Books. I'm Carly and today I want to talk to you about my summer TBR. Now, I have an enormous pile of books next to me that I want to talk to you about because I love setting TBRs or like a loose idea of what I'm going to read during a season because I'm a seasonal reader. So I always like to read with the seasons that I'm in. Disclaimer, I hate summer. Summer is my least favourite season. I don't do well in this heat. We're currently in yet another heat wave in the UK. I cannot cope. Hence why I'm filming downstairs in my living room today because it's the coolest room in the house. So I'm in two minds like this year, whether I want to read summery books because I'm in summer and that's what I usually do, or do I want to read books that are set in a cool climate that will help cool me down? Anyway, the books I've picked out are summery books. So I'm going to talk to you about all of these. There's no way that I'm going to read all of these because I am quite a slow reader. I get through about 4 books a month. That's it. More if I'm listening to audio, which at the moment I'm not. So I have an extraordinary pile of possibilities. So what I'd love, I'm going to talk you through all the books that I've got lined up. I would love for you to vote and tell me what you think I should read out of all of these. So let's kick it off with books that I have got because they are set in summer or they're set in hot climates. So the first one is Fredrik Backman's My Friends. I love the cover on this. This is a very summery cover. Now, I wouldn't have usually picked up this kind of book. I've never read any Fredrik Backman before. The reason I picked this up is because a friend recommended it. I'm very receptive to recommendations from friends. And a friend recommended this and said she'd read it and she really loved it. And the premise is that it's set around an artwork. I'm very into reading about art and artworks at the moment, so that's just a niche thing that I'm into. This book is about an artwork that is around a group of teenagers. I'm just going to not read the blurb but try and summarise it. That during a summertime, an artwork was created about this group of teenagers, or I'm guessing it's a painting. Maybe they were swimming. And the story of that artwork being uncovered. That's all I know. And it's set in a seaside town. I'm very much here for it. I like the cover. It's set in summertime. If you've read it, no spoilers please, but please tell me below in the comments if you think I should pick it up. Yeah, I just think because it's not something that I would usually read, so I'm kind of really intrigued to get to this. So that's the first one. Then I have got Sarah Moss's Ripeness, another beautiful cover. This is another summertime book and I think it's a dual timeline. So we've got starting in the 60s where the main character Edith is going to Italy to be with her sister who is about to give birth. And then years later, Edith is newly divorced and there is some incident with one of her friends who has a long lost brother turn up, and it makes her reflect on things in her past. So it says this is a novel about familial love and the communities we create, migration and new beginnings. It's set in kind of Italy, it's set in summer. I'm very much here for this. I love Sarah Moss's writing. Yeah, and I just really want to read this in the summertime. Then I have 2 books. No, I've got 3 more, but all of these are set in Italy, I think. Sarah Moss's is set in Italy. I would like to read a Natalia Ginzburg this summer. So I've got The Dry Heart. I'm assuming most of Ginzburg's books are set in Italy because she was Italian. And this sounds incredible. It's only a very thin novel, so I'm going to add this to my top of my pile. It's only 100 pages. This is a psychological thriller by the sounds of it, about a marriage. A woman shoots her husband, and it's about the marriage and the marriage unfolding into that tragic event. I'm assuming it's set in Italy. But yeah, I have never read any Natalia Ginzburg. One of my favourite ASMR artists. I watch a lot of ASMR, particularly book-based ASMR. If you've got any recommendations for book-based ASMR, please drop that in the comments. One of my favourite ASMR artists, I will link her below, loves Natalia Ginzburg, and she's always talking about her books. So I've wanted to pick them up. As I say, I'm very easily influenced. So this one I definitely want to get to. Another Italian book is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante. Have I read any? I don't think I've read any Ferrante before. And this is another recommendation from another ASMR artist that I love. Really recommended this. This again is about the falling apart of a marriage. There's a theme here. Also set in Italy during a heat wave. So I will see how that fares, reading about a heat wave whilst being in a heat wave. I'm not married, by the way. I'm just saying this isn't about my marriage falling apart because I don't have one. But this is about a woman spiraling into depression after her husband leaves her, I think for a younger person. Shocker. But this has a lot of trigger warnings for mental health, poor mental health, spiraling and depression, which I feel like I'm in a safe place to read that now. So yeah, I really want to read this just because I've heard such good things about it. Haven't read any of the Neapolitan series by Elena Ferrante. If you would recommend those, and a lot of people do, I know they love them, I am quite tempted to read My Brilliant Friend. So again, talk to me in the comments below and tell me if you think I should start with the Neapolitan series over Days of Abandonment. Then I have A Private Man by Stephanie Quia. I went to the Cambridge Literary Festival back in the spring and I saw this author. There was a panel of debut writers and she was one of them talking about this book. I had not heard of it before I went to that panel, and she read a bit out and I loved the excerpt that she read out from the book. I think the writing was beautiful. This is set in Rome, 1953, about a young man who is in the priesthood and he meets a young woman who I think she's also part of the Catholic faith, and they have a love affair. Now, this is based in fact because the reason I wanted to see this author speak about it is because she's basically writing about her grandparents. So this is based on a real life thing. It's based on her grandparents' relationship. And she had originally written it as a non-fiction book, but couldn't get it published, so turned it into a novel. The reason I'm interested is because I'm doing a similar thing. I'm writing about my own family history, and I'm very prepared to write it as non-fiction, and then if I can't get it published, to switch it into a novel. So that was why I was super intrigued, and I just really loved the writing when she read it out. So I bought it at the Cambridge Lit Fest, and I really want to read this over the summer. It sounds great. I think it's also been recently shortlisted for the Waterstones Debut Fiction Prize. So that's very cool, and definitely one I want to get to during the summer. Okay. And then I've got another influence by my friend, my lovely friend Pearl, was talking about Taiwan Travelogue by Shuang-zi and translated by Lin King. This won the International Booker recently. Generally, I don't pay much attention to the International Booker. I keep an eye on it. I see who's won and what's on the shortlist, but I generally don't go out of my way to read those books. My friend Pearl changed my mind. She said she wanted to read it, so I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll read it too. And the appealing thing about this, other than it's a fictionalized kind of like travelogue of a Japanese person going to Taiwan and sampling their food. The food is the key here. I am very much enjoying the fact that all of the chapter headings are food-based. So yeah, they've all got food headings: roasted seeds, silver needle vermicelli, jute soup, sliced raw fish, braised minced pork. I'm here for writing about food. One of my favourite programmes recently has been Midnight Diner on Netflix. And each episode is set around a food. And I just love it so much. So I wanted the book equivalent of Midnight Diner, and I think this might be it. So yeah, very much looking forward to reading this, hopefully over the summer. And I like the premise that it's kind of, the way that it's set out as a rediscovered manuscript of this travelogue. I really like that framing narrative. And it's got a map in the front. It looks at colonialism and culture and food, all of my favourite things. So yeah, very much looking forward to reading this. Can I get through it in the summer? Who knows? Right, a book club pick now. This isn't particularly a summary book, I don't think, but my book club are reading There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak, and I've had this high on my radar for a while, so I'm really pleased that that got picked. This is a historical novel. I think it's set over different time periods. So we've got Victorian London, 2014 in Turkey, and 2018 in London. Different characters, different storylines. I'm assuming they all link up over the theme of water. And I know that that is a big kind of narrative drive in this book, water in all of its various forms, and how important it is for us, which is something that's close to my heart. I am very afeared of drought. I live next to the river and I love living next to a body of water. I'm very scared when, like, it hasn't rained here since June, the beginning of June, and that makes me very nervous. Drought is one of those things that I am very scared about. I also work in Finland, which is like a drained man-made landscape because it was all underwater years ago. And so water management is something that I'm just super interested in. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I definitely will be reading this within the next month or so because it's my book club pick. Another book club pick, but it's my book club that I run at the library. I've been a bit cheeky. I've picked my favourite book of all time. We're reading Rebecca by old Daffers. Daphne du Maurier is my favourite author, my favourite dead author. My favourite living author is Ali Smith. Rebecca is my favourite book of all time, and I'm due for a reread. I love reading Daphne du Maurier in the summer months because it's when I first discovered her. I went on holiday to Cornwall and I obviously heard of Daffers, but I picked up a book, I think it was The House on the Strand, that was in the cottage that I was staying in. I loved it, and then I just inhaled all of her books. I've read most of her novels now and short stories. But Rebecca is my favourite, and I'm so glad that I get to reread it this summer because it just feels like the perfect summer read. It's like dark and gothic, but for me, Daphne du Maurier is an author that I will always read in the summer. And I just love this book so much. I have made a separate video about my Daphne du Maurier collection because it's extensive. So I will link that in the cards above and in the description below. Do go and check it out, where I talk about all of the books that I've read by Daffers, including like non-fiction, like biography about her and her family. And there's loads of other like non-fiction books about Daphne du Maurier. I just think she's a really interesting person that I would still like to read. I still haven't read them, so if anyone is interested in reading more Daphne du Maurier or books about Daphne du Maurier, I'm still well up for that. So again, tell me in the comments below. I'm happy to host some kind of readathon of old Daffers. In a similar vein, last time I was in Cornwall, I went to the bookshop in Foy, which is the town where Daphne du Maurier lived, and I picked up China Court by Rumer Godden. Now, this is a classic. I'd never heard of it before, and I just love this this book. It has beautiful end papers. See, there's my receipt from the bookshop, which is now called Shrew Books in Foy. Beautiful edition of this book, and it's also by Manderley Press, which I loved. I don't know when this was published. I feel like it was a long time ago. But I'd never heard of it before, and just picked it up in Shrew Books. 1960 this was published, and it's basically, I think, a family saga set around this house in Cornwall. Lots of different characters through the generations and the fight to keep this ancestral home. And I love a book set around a big manor house, so that's why I love Rebecca. And I'm hoping this will be a similar vibe, like as a new favourite. So I would really love to read this during the summer. So they're my two kind of Cornish-based novels. Then I've got a folklore book, which I just love to read this summer. It's Greenteeth by Molly O'Neill. This was recommended to me by one of my book club friends, and it's about Jenny Greenteeth. Jenny Greenteeth is my ultimate favourite folkloric character. I think about her a lot. If you've never heard of Jenny Greenteeth, Google her, look at the pictures. Maybe not if you're into wild swimming and you're a bit nervous about what's underneath you. I go wild swimming, and I love the fact that Jenny Greenteeth possibly is underneath me. As I'm swimming, I think about that a lot, particularly if there's reeds that wrap around my legs and my stomach as I'm swimming. I'm always like, oh, is that Jenny Greenteeth's fingers coming to pull me down into the depths? So this book, I don't know if it's a children's book or just general fantasy. Maybe it's middle grade, I'm not sure. I think it might be middle grade, but it's basically about Jenny Greenteeth is disturbed one day when a witch is thrown into her lake or her pond, wherever she lives. And the witch is thrown in by her village, who's being persecuted. And from what I can gather, Jenny Greenteeth and this witch team up, which just sounds like all kind of amazing. It sounds brilliant. I got cut off because my phone is out of storage, so let's try and get through the rest of these very quickly. The other two I've got left are books on gardening. So I have a collection of essays called In the Garden, Essays on Nature and Growing. This is from a whole host of authors, and it might be nice just to dip into throughout the summer. So I'm going to have a look at that. And then I've also got The Garden Against Time by Olivia Laing. Olivia Laing is one of my favourite authors. This is a non-fiction book about the garden and the concept of paradise. So she's looking at lots of different aspects of that, from like her own private garden in Suffolk that she took to renovating, to ideas around like Paradise Lost from Milton, philosophical, literary influences on paradise and what that means. I did start reading this, but as with a lot of non-fiction, I just get distracted and then put it down and don't pick it up again. But I would love to get back to this at some point. So that is also on my list for the summer. So those are all of the books that I've got on my list to read this summer. As I said, I'm not going to get through all of them. So please talk to me in the comments below. Tell me which ones you think I should prioritise. And if you've read any of those, let me know what your thoughts are on them and if I should pick them up. I will hopefully see you very soon in another video. Take care, everyone. Bye.